Next is to look to set the price for breakfast and lunch meals for the 2013-2014 school year.
As we talked about earlier, we talked about the potential changes or decisions that you're going to have to make, and we know that we'll be talking about those at the A Board Retreat or Board Academy, whichever one we choose to call it. And what we're going to look at really right now is the overview of the 2013-14 food service budget. Now, when we're looking at the 2014 budget, and Jesse, correct me whenever you need to here, but we're looking at a budget that is right now built without some of these things that we're talking about, because one of the first things we need to do is present a budget that we think is going to be workable. So if we want to go back and add to the budget, we can do that at a later date, but as we're looking at this right now, we're talking about a budget that does not include some of the, as we say, the purchasing equipment, using more canned and frozen foods, and probably looking at some more, instead of the styrofoam, more biodegradable trays. So, having said that, even with that budget, we still need to do some things differently. One of them is that the federal laws require us to charge so much for a student lunch.
Paid meal, correct.
Paid meal, correct. So we've put together, actually Jesse's put together a budget that shows what our budget or what our shortfall at the end of the year would look like if there's no increase. We know that can't happen, but if there was an increase in the lunch prices, with the budget that he's developed, and we'll look at that a little bit as we move forward here, we'd be about $26,000 short. It will be greater than that if we choose to do some of these other things. How much will depend on what we choose to do. Correct? If we have a 10-cent increase on the lunch prices and a 5 cents on the breakfast, we would still be about $8,450 short. If we look at a 15-cent increase on lunch and a 5-cent increase on breakfast, then at that point in time, Jesse feels pretty good that he can put together a balanced budget for us next year. Again, that doesn't include some of those changes that we talked about. So when we look at these budgets for 13-14, we're just going to take a quick look, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jesse to talk about meal prices a little bit more in depth. Again, the value of using foam trays at the high school, $10,460. That's kind of a big ticket item on the expense side of things here. So we would look at that. Some other things would be moving away from, not completely, but as you said, more canned vegetables than fresh vegetables.
Yes, we use fresh fruit and vegetables all year long at each school, so
reduce away from that. Obviously, changing the cookie recipe. Try to increase sales there, along with selling, moving our a la carte back from where it was last year back into the kitchen. We think that in itself will help a little bit there. And then along with that, savings from not having fresh fruit. That doesn't mean we're going to quit serving them, just probably not as often. That being the way it is, there'd also be a savings on the salary and fringe side of things. And then we would look on the revenue side, increasing our meal prices, which would add additional revenues for us. So trying to make up what we would say is probably a $73,000, it's about a $70,000 difference between what we actually received last year and what we would actually expend this year to try to bridge that gap. So with that, I'm going to kind of turn this over to Jesse at this point in time. So if you want to talk about those lunch prices and what it looks like around the conference, because really we have two choices: raise it by 10 cents as required by federal law, or raise it by 15 cents. And I think he will set the justification for doing that.
What I did is I asked all the school districts in the area to give us their lunch prices. Not all the school districts actually have set their prices. They're still waiting to go to their board for their prices, some of them. may not be increasing at all. You see on Alaska has no increase, and Holman may have had a slight increase. But looking at everybody here, even with a 15-cent increase, we're actually still below the average of all the districts, and we're actually right around the third lowest when it comes to lunch ticket prices. So we're actually still pretty fairly low. So I guess, with that said, I definitely would recommend a 15-cent increase. And the same applies for breakfast as well. We are below the average and around the second or third lowest.
Scroll down.
Any questions?
Well, does
Talk
the,
about the federal, a little bit, the requirement that we have to raise.
So the federal government requires us to put this sheet together to calculate how much we have to raise lunch ticket prices. They started doing this about 2-3 years ago is when they implemented this regulation. And that was to stop schools from subsidizing their free and reduced program and to actually start charging more to get a better quality of food. So with that, when we put ours together, we actually had to raise our lunch prices by 10 cents, so that's a 10-cent requirement. So we can go over if we so choose, but we can't go under the 10-cent requirement. Meaning we can't go lower than 10 cents.
And if we raised it 15 cents this year, that means a requirement for next year would only be 5 cents until we get caught up to where we need to be, which will be very difficult to do unless you just have a significant increase in any 1 year. And this is something we've been talking about again for 2 or 3 years at the board level, that when these regulations came in place, that we were significantly below the federal level for meal prices and that we would need to be raising these each year. So the question really becomes, you can see the recommendations, 10 or 15 cents at the lunch level, and then what is it, a 5 or 10?
5 cents at breakfast.
5 cents at breakfast. So when we move back up to the top screen, you can see that if we were just to balance the budget, now this is taking out any of those considerations of, this is using styrofoam plates at the high school, this is moving to the cookie, this is, moving the a la carte over into the regular high school line. It's maybe looking at not eliminating fresh vegetables, but using probably less and going more to a canned vegetable at different times. That's how this budget is built. We at least have to start with a balanced budget. Now you guys, when you talk about this at the Board Academy, you can add that stuff back if that's the direction you want to go, but we wanted to present at least a balanced budget. In order to make that balanced budget, we would have to add 15 cents to the price of the lunch. If we don't do that, if we add 10 cents, you're going to need to pull out, we're estimating $8,450 and transfer that. Plus, if you don't do any increase, which really is not an option. So, what is the urgency of deciding this tonight? Is it the handbooks that we needed to get this into?
Well, we have to approve it at the annual meeting if we're raising
No,
it.
you just approve offering free and reduced
Oh, okay.
lunches at the annual meeting. You don't really,
Not the price
you're not setting any prices, so this is really
for the handbook.
traditionally when we've always done it.
Can you go into again, I can't remember why federally we're mandated to raise the price. It's based on, what are the factors that made us too
They require
low?
us to meet or get close to their free reimbursement. So they actually raised the reimbursement by 7 cents this year, which then automatically, in order to get even closer to that, you have to go up 10 cents. So depending on how much they raise it, the thing is they always raise it anywhere between 2 to 7 cents. 7 is the biggest I've actually ever seen. So as they continue to raise that, they continue to make us go up.
And that's the same for all the other districts that are listed around us?
Correct.
also?
You can actually, the only way you can get out of raising lunch ticket prices is you have to do a transfer from a non-federally funded source. So if we don't raise lunch ticket prices, and that's part of the price calculator, it's around $18,000 that would be required to be transferred into Fund 50 from a non-federal fund.
Now, just speaking with Michelle and David back here, they see no reason why it would have to be for handbook reasons tonight, if that's okay with you. Jesse, or do you have any reasons? Unless the board is comfortable in raising it 15 cents. I know, again, did you want to discuss it further at the academy? I don't know how much that's going to change anything. If anything, it's going to make it look like you need to increase it by 15 cents.
Well, all the other schools that are on this page, they all have to increase theirs too, right?
Unless they intend on transferring funds, correct?
Okay, so we would still be lower than all the other schools, well, most of them.
I've been doing this presentation since I started here, and we were the lowest or the second to the lowest, and that has not changed right a year period, and it was much like that before, so I would not expect this to change.
I just read in Little Cross Tribune that Holman increased their lunch prices, but I don't recall what the, I suppose I could look it up. It was recently in the papers.
And there was a school district that actually just raised theirs 15 cents as well, so we wouldn't be the only one to raise it that much.
Yeah, it just seems that in light of the federal requirements, in light of where we are compared to other districts, in light of what we hope to do with the other parts of our food program, it would seem very reasonable that we go with these increases. So if people want to wait, but it seems like that's the direction we're going to go.
I got a question for you, Jesse.
Yes, sir.
What about the people purchasing these? Are they going to fray away from the 15-cent increase at all?
We may see a decrease in participation with the paid students who do this, correct?
I mean, it's fair to me. 15 cents is nothing, but some of those kids may shy away from it, or the parents may.
It's a $27, if you take 15 cents and if this child eats every day, times about approximately 180 days, it's a $27 increase, annual increase. Which it's for some folks that will be a substantial increase, especially if you have 3 or 4 kids that are eating. So we don't take it lightly that we're just raising it, but it's just probably something we need to do.
Well, Greg, I can't see us having to spend our own money to reimburse the program, so I'm all for it. I just question if some kids may not want to, or the parents may not want to. And the alternative is we gotta put our funds into supporting the program.
I think they would call that in economics a point of diminishing returns. Where and we need to be mindful of that because certainly that if that lunch gets to be comparable to what a parent can send as a cold lunch, where it's meaningful and the child is more happy eating the cold lunch than the hot lunch. We need to be mindful of that.
And certainly we still, having the parents take the time to fill out the free and reduced lunch forms is really important and available for anyone that needs that.
Does that guideline change at all then for the free and reduced when you raise the price of the...
No, it does not change when we raise the price, but they do change it annually. We actually did see an increase in free and reduced this year, so it actually went up.
The number of people that qualify.
I think what's a good idea is what you brought up, Craig, is that we've been continually lower the number of districts in the area with our lunches. So raising it may be a good idea to put that in there, that we had to do this, but in previous years we were low.
Well, and
We're still going to be low.
We still.
we're still going to be low, but I think in some ways, and maybe I'm overthinking this, but we were able to offer a low-cost quality meal. Now, quality is dependent on the person eating it, I understand that, and what you define as quality, but, you know, that's probably the dilemma that you're going to have to be thinking about a little bit. Do you want to offer a low-cost quality meal, or do you want to offer a higher cost, higher quality meal? Because, you know, the commercial suggests you get something for nothing. Well, that isn't the way it works. You know, everything, the higher quality food you put in front of children, it's going to cost more. And I don't think anybody doesn't want to do that, but again, the overall goal is for the food service program is to feed kids. It didn't say put the best meal out in front of them. It put a quality meal as defined by the USDA guidelines.
Correct.
Your chart is accurate for home. I guess that those are the 2000, those are the prices for next year in the home and school district.
So again, you know, based on what I'm hearing, it seems as though it seems like there's some comfort with at least going forward with the price increase, although I know I am, and others, I feel like we're still interested in having this conversation about the other parts that affect the budget. Well, I'd look for a motion to approve the...
Right here it is.
Okay. Thanks, Gary.
I move we approve it.
The increases is presented, and that's the 15 cent for lunch and 5 cents for breakfast.
I'll second.
15 lunch, 5
We have a motion and a second to approve the price increase as presented, which again was 15 cent increase for lunch and a 5 cent increase for breakfast. Any other questions or comments?
And although we didn't touch on, this includes all meals, adult or student.
Right.
I'm sorry?
It includes both adult and student meals,
Oh, okay.
regardless of age.
Okay. Anything else? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Say no. The ayes have it, the motion carries, and so then those price increases are approved. Thank you.